You ever have one of those mornings where the whole world tilts beneath your feet and you just know deep in your gut nothing will ever be the same? That's how it hit me. HOA sold my ranch before sunrise, so I sold their entire neighborhood before lunch. You read that right. My 500-acre family ranch gone on paper, snatched up by an HOA I never even joined. But that morning as I rolled home and found strangers hauling off my equipment, well, I knew something was rotten, and I also knew they didn't have a clue who they were messing with. I had the law of the land and a federal easement on my side. And I'll tell you right now, before this story's over, you're going to see how their scam turned into the biggest legal reversal this county's ever seen. The sun had just cracked the Wyoming horizon when my tires bit into the old ranch road gravel, singing under the weight of memory. Cold air pushed in through the cracked window of my pickup, carrying that perfect mixed sagebrush dust, a faint mineral tang off Cottonwood Creek. After a long night hauling supplies from town, all I wanted was coffee and the comfort of cattle waking up across the 3 generations of Carter land. But halfway down the drive, something was off. Too many unfamiliar shadows moving in the dawn, figures hoisting tools, men in shiny vests, barking orders, trucks I'd never seen lined up like a pop-up construction site. One of them had my grandfather's feed wagon hitched up, dragging it toward the gate. Another was wrestling the old branding chute, cursing when it jammed on the fence panel, clearly had no clue what he was doing. I stopped, my truck heart pounding like a dropped anvil. These weren't neighbors. These were strangers dismantling my life piece by piece. A sheet of paper, red stamped and official, snapped against the wooden gate, slapping the sun-bleached boards like a warning. I stepped out, boots sinking into frost-soft ground, breath clouding in the air. The paper screamed, "Foreclosure sold to HOA bidder, effective immediately." Everything inside me just froze. This land had never been under mortgage, not a lien, not a whisper of dispute. Taxes paid early, every receipt locked in that metal cabinet my dad welded himself. There was no possible universe where this ranch was up for foreclosure. That's when I heard her voice cutting through the chill. "Mr. Carter, we've been expecting you." I turned. There she was, Marilyn Croft, president of the Cedar Hills Homeowners Association. Tall, polished, wrapped in a red wool coat that screamed city money, not cattle country. Clipboard tucked under one arm like it was a badge. Behind her, 2 more HOA types hovered with tablets documenting every stolen piece of my family's history. "Expecting me, huh?" I kept my voice low. "Mind telling me why folks are stealing equipment off my land?" She smiled, thin as a paper cut. "Not stealing. Transferring ownership. The property was auctioned yesterday. Procedures were followed." My hand tightened on the paper. "What auction?" She lit up, loving every second of it. "Foreclosure. Delinquent community impact fees, $78,000. The HOA placed a lien months ago. Notices were sent." I shot back, "I'm not part of any HOA. Never signed a thing." "Oh, but you are now," she purred, tapping her clipboard. "Boundary adjustments were filed last year. Cedar Hills extended jurisdiction over adjacent properties. Membership is automatic." That's when the cold started in my chest. "Lady, my grandfather bought this ranch in '54. You don't get to auto-enroll land into your little covenant." She shrugged. "Community standards exist for stability. When owners fall behind, consequences follow." I looked at the men tearing apart my life. "You're trespassing," she whispered. "Gather your things and leave before law enforcement arrives." The sunrise painted the ridge gold, but none of that warmth reached me. "You think you can take 500 acres with a piece of paper and a fake fee?" She grinned, smug. "It's already done." But her confidence had that brittle, too-practiced edge. My father always said you can hear truth in a person's voice. Hers rang hollow like a soda can kicked down a road. "How do you sell land that never belonged to you?" I asked, holding the notice up so the wind rattled it. Marilyn just turned, signaled her crew. The ranch behind her suddenly looked fragile, like one bad push could send it all crashing down. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a declaration of war. And they picked the wrong Carter to start it with. By the time I reached the Cedar Hills Community Center, frost had melted to mud along the roadside. My boots thudded across the steps louder than I meant. Inside the meeting was already rolling rows of folding chairs facing a projector my ranch outlined in HOA blue like a kid's crayon map. Board members at a table, faces tightening when they saw me. Marilyn at the podium, red coat draped like a victory flag. "Mr. Carter, you weren't on today's agenda. This is for verified Cedar Hills property owners only." I walked down the aisle, ignored the whispers. Good, because I want to know how my ranch ended up on that map. A man in a plaid golf vest pushed his glasses up. "Boundary realignment filed last fall. Legal. Filed where I demanded." "County offices," Marilyn said. "Proper channels. Notices mailed." To which address I shot back. Board member checked his folder. P.O. Box 227. I snorted. That box expired in 2009. "You mailed notices to a dead address." Marilyn's smile didn't budge, but her eyes flickered. "We are not responsible for your failure to maintain correct contact information." My hands curled into fists. "You manufactured fees, mailed them to an empty box, then foreclosed, no notice, no hearing." "That's how the system works," she replied, cool as river ice. "Cedar Hills enforces standards." I cut her off. "I never joined your HOA, never signed a thing." She tapped her clipboard. "You joined automatically through boundary realignment public record. You could have objected." I stared her down, that slow heat rising like when a bull turns on you in the pen. "Show me the document." The board shuffled. Finally, the golf vest guy handed me the so-called boundary map. Surveyed by Richard Clean, dated 4/12 last year. My stomach dropped. I knew Richard Clean. He'd been dead 10 months when that signature was dated. "This signature is forged," I said, holding up the paper. The room stiffened. Marilyn's mask slipped for a second before snapping back. "You must be mistaken. Our legal team had a dead man approve your boundary change," I finished. Her voice sharpened. "Unless you have proof Mr. Clean is deceased, his funeral was at St. Paul's. I was there. And even if you hadn't forged the paperwork, you don't get to swallow 500 acres for pickleball courts." Nervous laughter. Marilyn slammed her gavel. "Order, you're disrupting the meeting." "Try it," I said. Just then the back door opened. Sheriff Bo Hargreaves stepped in, hat in hand. "Morning, Elias. Got a call about a disturbance." Marilyn chimed in. "Just an individual refusing to accept lawful foreclosure." Bo sighed. "Elias, paperwork's processed, stamped, recorded." "Not much I can do." I turned to him. "Sheriff, the document they used was signed by a dead man." He glanced at the page, squinting. "Well, county clerk'll need to look at it. After my land is gone." He didn't answer. That was answer enough. I left, but not quietly. "If one signature's fake, what else is forged?" Marilyn's eyes narrowed. Fear flickered for just a breath. Out in the parking lot, wind whipped dust and pine needles across my hood. Fake signature, dead surveyor, what else? If they could fake one, they could fake a dozen. If they'd forged their way onto my land, what else would they do to keep it? The ranch wasn't just under attack, it was part of a plan. And I'd just seen the first crack in their armor. That evening I walked the fence-line boots, sinking deeper in the softening earth. Cottonwood Creek whispered over stone. But tonight the silence was different, heavy. I'd spent hours cross-checking the bogus HOA map with my original surveys. Forged signatures meant someone wanted the ranch bad enough to risk prison. As dusk set in, I spotted hoofprints heading for the property line my cattle spooked, drifting where they never wandered before. At the cedar fence, I found 3 sections cut clean through bolt cutters, not animals. Sharp, precise. Sabotage, plain and simple. They wanted my herd to stray onto HOA land to set me up for violations, dangerous livestock property values threatened. I crouched, fingers brushing the clean cut. Whoever did this knew what they wanted my herd on HOA land, an excuse to bury me. Just then gravel crunched behind me. A skinny teenager hoodie pulled up, rocked on his heels. "Mr. Carter," he called, voice cracking. "Evening. You out here alone?" He swallowed, eyes wet. I needed to talk to you." The wind nearly stole his words, but I heard him. "Miss Croft, Marilyn. She said the HOA needed proof your cattle were a problem. She gave me $50 to cut the fence at dusk, said no one would know. I fought to keep my anger in check, not at him, but at Marilyn. What's your name, Wyatt? Wyatt Bloom. Wyatt, thank you for telling me. You did the right thing. If someone asks you, be honest, all right? He looked terrified. She'll kill me in the HOA, I mean. My mom rents from her. She said if I talked, we'd lose our place. You leave that to me. You head home and stay out of sight tonight. He nodded, disappearing into the dark. Wyatt's confession was proof sabotage, manufactured violations, all orchestrated by Marilyn. I snapped photos of the cuts and the trail, cataloging every detail. They thought they had me cornered. They didn't know the truth about corners. Some men get trapped, other men gather force. Next morning, I hadn't even poured my coffee before a white HOA SUV pulled up. A guy in a powder blue windbreaker stepped out, clipboard clutched like armor. Mr. Carter Jeremy from Cedar Hills Enforcement Division. I'm here to deliver notice of expedited eviction. I took the envelope. Due to unpaid community impact fees, you have 10 days to vacate HOA property. I let the words hang. Son, this ranch has been Carter land since before your subdivision had a name. He stammered. Records show the records you have are forged, signed by a dead man. He swallowed hard, boots scraping across the porch. Sir, I'm just doing my job and I'm just protecting what's mine. You tell Marilyn that further action is exactly what she's gonna get. Inside, I sorted through the stack of bogus violations. At the bottom, a name, Clint Barrow. I remembered him. Slippery developer, left a mess outside Casper, blamed everyone else, walked away smiling. If Barrow was tied to this, it was about more than HOA fines. They wanted my land for a luxury resort, my lake access. So I headed to the old barn, dug out the box of deeds, surveys, water rights. There it was, a faded 1968 federal easement map, U.S. Department of the Interior seal, clear as day. Riparian easement on Cottonwood Creek, federal protection. HOAs, developers, county officials, nobody could override it. The barn door slammed in the wind. Paperwork is power, I thought, but so is memory. My family's, the land's. I drove to Cheyenne, easement in hand, straight to Rachel Monroe's law office. She didn't waste a second. Federal riparian easement active since '68. That trumps any HOA boundary. She got to work. If I can get the records department to confirm it's on file, you've got a shield and a weapon. I told her everything, fake signatures, Wyatt's confession, the whole rotten scheme. Her eyes hardened. This isn't a petty HOA trip. It's targeted fraud. And if they forged a boundary survey, they forged more. Deputy Clerk Granger came by, took the map. If this holds, the HOA can't touch your land. Folks forget land remembers who it belongs to. Rachel dug deeper. 3 other properties foreclosed, snapped up by board member relatives, flipped to Barrow's shell companies. The foreclosure judge paid off by Barrow. Corruption top to bottom. And the real survey never included my ranch. Wyatt showed up again, terrified, clutching a glossy map from Marilyn's office showing Phase 3 agricultural acquisitions. My ranch, 2 more, all circled in red. She threatened to evict us, he whispered. Rachel's jaw set hard. That's witness intimidation. But with this map, the emails, the checks, this is no longer civil. It's criminal conspiracy. The weight in the room was heavy, but I felt it shifting. That night, I signed the articles to form the Cottonwood Conservation District. Under Wyoming law, I could now reclaim every acre the HOA tried to steal, even their homes. Honest paperwork, stronger than any lie. Next morning, I headed to the courthouse, evidence in hand, as news crews and angry residents clustered outside. Inside, the judge opened the hearing. Marilyn and Barrow sat smug at the plaintiff's table, but they weren't ready for what was coming. Rachel presented the forged signature, the emails, the tax records. I handed over the federal easement. Wyatt testified, voice steady. Miss Croft paid me to cut Mr. Carter's fence. Marilyn lost it, denying, shouting. The judge cut her off. Enough. He declared substantial evidence of fraud, forgery, and harassment by Cedar Hills HOA. And then, on behalf of the Cottonwood Conservation District, I invoked eminent domain to reclaim every illegally annexed parcel, every home, every greenbelt, the entire neighborhood. Marilyn's face crumbled. Clint tried to run, but deputies caught him. It was over. Outside, as the wind swept the courthouse square, Marilyn was led away, her white coat flapping like a surrender flag. Clint, too, cuffs on expensive shoes caked in mud. Sheriff Bowe approached. That was one hell of a case, Elias. Not a case, I told him. A reckoning. Rachel joined me, briefcase heavy with the papers that rewrote an entire valley. And I thought justice doesn't always come with a bang. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it wears boots. By the next week, Cedar Hills Estates became a conservation district. No one was evicted. Residents could lease their homes at agricultural rates cheaper than a power bill. The Greenbelts restored the creek, protected stewardship, replaced the HOA's tyranny. Some folks wept, some cheered, most just looked relieved. You're not homeless, I told them. You're part of something new. Days later, I walked the land with Wyatt. You think people will be okay with this? He asked. Folks are tougher than they look, I said, especially when the truth's finally on the table. Rachel met us smiling. You did something big, Elias. Didn't do it alone. Maybe not, she said. But you were the spark. That evening I watched the sunset pour gold across the valley, felt peace settle deeper than it had in months. They tried to steal my legacy. Instead, they handed me the power to protect everyone else's. The land echoed that justice, steady as the Wyoming wind. So let me ask you, where do you draw the line between justice and revenge, between fighting for what's yours and becoming what you hate? Would you have done the same in my boots? Drop a yes in the comments or share your own story if you've ever stood your ground against folks who thought they could walk right over you. And if these stories of land justice and grit mean something to you, stick around. Out here, the truth's got deep roots and I've got plenty more to tell.